All right, Mike, thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you all for attending. Hope you guys are having a wonderful experience so far at AI4. We have a great panel here. At least these guys are. These guys are going to be awesome. I'm just here to help moderate, get the discussion going. We'll start off with brief introductions, and then we'll go through a few kind of questions that we have online, and then we'll have some time for Q&A. And so, as you know, this is kind of the marketing track. And so, my name is Tim Park. I'm with Chipotle. I think everyone who has not been to a Chipotle, show hands. Chipotle, well, thank you all. How many of you are loyalty members? Okay, a few of you. Okay, those of you who are, check your emails. You should have gotten something about National Fajita Day today, so feel free to do that. Those of you who are not, I know there's some hesitancy in sharing your data, but you guys are sharing it anyway, right? So why not just join Chipotle, and then you guys can learn some free reward. But I head up the CRM analytics piece, so we try to truly target our audience, try to customize, make sure we're not offering our vegetarians the new steak offer and stuff like that. We're obviously trying to customize and make sure our marketing is as effective as it can be. And so we're based in Newport Beach in California. Prior to that, I actually started in aerospace engineering way back in the day. Any of you heard of S Plus or S? So I'm obviously dating myself. That's what I used back in the day, and then R obviously became the go-to open source. So from there, I had a little bit of a career shift to DirecTV, to entertainment, and now I'm in the burrito business. So with that, let me introduce Hari.
I'm Hari. I'm the co-founders of Pixis. Dropped out from college in the third year. We started Pixis almost 3 years ago. We have just raised $100 million from SoftBank and General Atlantic. It's an AI-powered solution for optimizing your cost of customer acquisition on all the marketing channels where any advertiser spends, like maybe Facebook, Google, LinkedIn. The best part about our platform is a codeless platform, so no code, no pixel, no integration required as such to get started. Right now, we work with close to 90 plus brands across US, Europe, APAC. Some of the brand names like HelloFresh, Allbirds, Savagex, Biori. These are some of the brand names that we work with. But yeah, that's about being close to a 300 member team right now and scaling up.
And next we have Amir.
Hello, everybody. So who here does not have any product from Kraft Heinz? Kraft Heinz, Kraft product, ketchup, mac and cheese. It's amazing. Oh, no, you have to raise your hand. That's you. Okay. No, it's okay. So we need to talk after that. 90%, so Kraft Heinz, in terms of household, 90% of the household, 92% of the household has one or more Kraft Heinz products. So, me here, Kraft, I represent Kraft Heinz. I head the software engineering for Kraft Heinz Digital. New to Kraft Heinz, so I'm learning very quickly, how to, the business and marketing has been on the forefront. So my team put together, something new for Kraft Heinz, which is Kraft is known for products, but they're not known for building digital products. So one of the first products we put out as a team was called Craftomatic. So I know it's cheesy, but we have to put Kraft in it. Right? So we can't survive, so we call it Craftomatic. So it was recently published in a lot of the ad magazines and marketing sort of the sites as what the product does. So it's an AI-based, insight-driven product. So very proud of it. As a Kraft company, something we started doing a year and a half ago. So it's a good progress. So I'm happy to share what and how we got there, and take it from there. So.
All right, thanks, gentlemen. And so I don't know about you, but for me, when I think of AI, marketing is probably not the first area that comes to mind. But believe it or not, as you all know, since you are in here in this session, the use cases for AI marketing are definitely growing, right? Whether it's targeted ads, I know we have that DirecTV, or streaming, we're trying to really, even in the same household, can we send a different ad to, say, a child versus an adult at the same time? Personalized digital ads, we all know the impact of that. And we know even with content creation, even at Sony now, we're thinking, is there a way where the machine can actually make a movie, greenlight a movie? And so there's plenty of opportunities here within marketing and even on the creative side. And we want to talk a little bit about where are we seeing AI making a true impact in marketing. And Harvey, you want to kick us off on that one?
Absolutely. So I would say the way to a successful digital campaign for any brand for that matter is one dynamic resource allocation. So how do you identify which channels should you be spending upon? Should it be more Facebook or Google or the TikTok being kind of basically seeing the book should be TikTok or LinkedIn or Twitter. So one is how do you identify what should be the split across the channels for like we have implement allocators right now. There are such a conversions right now, all of it is campaign track. So the first part for any successful digital campaign would be like dynamic resource allocation, which is identifying what bits, what budgets should be allocated across channels within the channels. Second, how do you identify the right audience that you want to target? Like with Facebook going through the ISP change, with Facebook going more or less transparent in terms of data and targeting, how do you identify the right audiences? How do you target them? And the third part of it is the actual creative, like how do you target the right audience with the right creative at the right time? One classic example I can talk about about Pixis, like one of the first clients that we had is one of the top 10 value banks in the globe after Bank of America, Chipotle, it's called HDFC Bank, where all of you use credit cards. So for a credit card acquisition campaign, there are different type of cohorts which any bank would be having. Like people use credit cards for travel, for shopping, for bill payments. Now that's one of the kind of challenges which we took where for a very optimized account that they had, how do we identify the right audiences that we want to target to acquire people who could buy credit cards? So we segmented the audiences based on the interest, which is it could be for travel, it could be for shopping, or bill payment, and then further subsegmenting it based on age, gender, location, interest, language, a lot of other parameters. So before running Pixis, HDFC Bank was running just 5 to 10 creatives on all their ad campaigns on Facebook, Google, other channels. With Pixis, we were able to deploy 130,000 dynamic creators for each micro cohort or each sub-segmented audience. The result being, like in the end, it's all about the relevancy of the ad. The higher the relevance, the higher it strikes the mind, and the higher thumbs topic index every creator has, it increases your ad relevancy score on every channel you're marketing, which in turn makes your CPCs efficient, which in turn makes your CTRs efficient, and directly impacting your conversion rates. And that conversion rate is for your end business goal that you're trying to optimize. The impact that we saw was a straight 40% reduction in CAC, and for a scale which is millions being spent on a monthly basis on all these channels, 40% would be good. So that's one example where we see AI making a huge impact in terms of audience identification, in terms of targeting the audience with the right creative and resource allocation across channels.
Mir, anything you want to add to that? I know you have some good use cases now.
So, just from our perspective, right? So, where we want to leverage, so you talk a lot about the capabilities from this platform and how it's helping, right? So for us, I'm going to tie this back to our objectives, right? So, from a marketing perspective, right? So, one of the goals that we had from a business perspective was return on ad spend. That's number one. Number two was ad waste. How do we figure out this too, right? So this is the two objectives we start with, and we started building our own platform. So a piece of what Pixis does, we built, which is really understanding our customer and being able to provide that to our brands, right? So we have big brands, so we 80-20 rules, so we work on a brand. So what we did was create that insight. Like number one step is like, do you know who you want to go after? That's number one. And that's all we focused on. And we've seen some really good returns on it. And hence we created an application to actually support that. So building that data, first understanding the objectives, what we want, what we need, where we need to be, and what the company's, leadership expectation, building this product. And we focused on just one capability, and we're leveraging other more tech platforms that are providing us sort of those AI capabilities. So it's a big ecosystem. Marketing is a big ecosystem, and we're just getting started. So
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. We are truly just getting started, and along those lines, I think there are definitely some challenges, right, that we face in marketing, especially. How do we implement AI, or even taking a step back? How do we even go? For those of you, how many of you have read the book Moneyball or watched the movie Moneyball? Right, so kind of going away from one's gut and trying to really truly become a data-driven organization. So I know in my previous role at Sony, right, obviously we actually made that Moneyball, but there was a little bit of a network is obviously studios have been around for a long time, and it's like, hey, I got this. I go by my gut. I've been doing this a long time. This is how I'm going to do it. This movie is going to be successful. I know the director, blah, blah, blah. And then we come in with kind of a model that says, you know what, that may not be the best time to even launch that movie. You get a lot of competition with other studios, etc. And so one of the challenges I think that I face in many roles is just trying to get marketing folks, or just say non-technical folks, trying to get them on board with some of the data decisions, right? I see a lot of heads being nodded here. And that is definitely a challenge, right? And so trying to go, and what's worked for me in the past is seriously just having coffee with that person, right? Taking them out, going to a driving range, going to have dinner with them, just talking and saying, hey, where are your pain points? How can we help you, right? So you're coming in as a partner rather than saying, hey, I got all the answers, my model is perfect, I'm going to solve your problems. But you come in as a collaborator, come in humbly, and you come in, I will try to help you, I will partner with you. Let's do some baby steps. I know a lot of other organizations, a lot of other speakers have talked about the easy wins, right? The low-hanging fruit. And there's definitely some truth to that, right? How can we show value pretty quickly? And in some ways, even the AI group or the data science team, we have to, in some ways, quote unquote, market ourselves to show this is how we can add value to the great organization. And I know you guys have some great examples of how can we leverage AI in marketing.
So I'm going to highlight the challenging part, right? So the challenge is about very rare, it's technology. One of the challenges that at least we see, there's quite a few, but the main one is the culture. From a culture perspective of, so in the past, the way marketing worked, right? There's content team, there's marketing, ad team, and there's various layers of team. It's all through over the wall, right? I'm done with the piece, you take it, just and now trying to tell them, say, AI is going to do work for us, like, they're like, what are you talking about? You don't even know. Like, be engineer, trying to tell them that this is going to help. So it was just hard for them to really understand, like, how would that work, right? So, obviously, so that's culture was a challenge in getting there. The other one was just literacy, digital literacy, and getting the teams to train and learn about it, right? Use cases, demos, team, and exposing them. So literacy aspect of it, right? So making sure they are aware of what's the art of possible. And the last one is commitment from leadership, right? So giving that, funding the project, funding the technology and the platform. So, in the last year or so, these are a few things that we have seen, and we're putting things together to overcome these sort of challenges.
And just to add to what we said, that these are some challenges which we faced when we pitched Pixis. Like, generally when we pitch Pixis, it's more about, okay, so do I need to fire the entire media team? Do I need to fire my agency? Because you would be operating 80 to 90% of it. But that's kind of slightly changing, like the perspective, at least from what we have so far. It's more about giving back that more time to the team so that they can do what they love doing, which is strategy, framework, and devising how to scale this as a whole, while all the executional tasks can be better handled by an AI. Because a system obviously can do a better job, like looking at your data on every minute, every second, like also working on weekends as well, also with the holidays, when any fluctuation that can happen in terms of you running media can be better mitigated through an AI system. So when we kind of reverse the conversation, in this angle is when the pitches kind of becomes slightly more comfortable. The other part is also about, like, how do we trust these platforms? Because again, like coming with a pitch which says that with a magic wand, we will just bring down your CPM, and there is nothing required to get started. Now again, that's a pitch where security teams get involved, where InfoSec gets involved, like they check whether you're SOC 2 compliant, ISO compliant, you are in line with the GDPR policies. This is just one part of it, which is what we have solved through all the certifications. Second, we have tried to make the platform as much as nimble in terms of lesser information being required to get started. So there is no personal information which asks us to reach to get started. It is just campaign and exports, etc., through which we can kickstart PLMs. And the other part of it is integration time. So we all know to get any AI system integrated, it's a pain, right? We need to coordinate between cross-functional teams. There is an integration time of almost 3 to 4 weeks involved in taking these systems live. So that's again one thing which we try to solve by building things within the Facebook and Google Ads platform at a native level, so that the marketers need not log into a new platform, and the integration time is literally less than 5 minutes in our case. So yeah, these are some challenges which I face when we pitch the ad products.
Yeah, Mir, you hit up on a couple of great points on culture and literacy. And fortunately, at Chipotle, our CMO, he has told me, Tim, try a bunch of stuff, test, fail, learn. And I love that environment, that atmosphere where you can truly test, learn, fail, and move forward. I know that's not the case for a lot of organizations, whether it's small or large. I was just talking to a gentleman from Apple, and he's a data scientist, and he was talking about the data silos that they obviously work in. I'm sure some of it has to do with the secrecy of the different projects. One thing that has worked for me in the past is creating lunch and learns across the company, right? Across groups, just bring in all your technical folks, or anyone who's just interested in learning, and just talk about your different business use cases, how your models, how data is helping you solve these certain problems. And also be upfront about these are the challenges that I'm facing. It's amazing how many other groups are actually going through the same challenges. And so that has really worked for me. And what's worked at a higher level is like for VP levels and above, we used to do quarterly kind of lunch and learns. And we would just invite some of the higher ups. And when they came, we actually had greater turnout because everyone felt like, I should show my face because my boss's boss is there, right? But it was a great turnout. But it was also a great time just to learn and just really empathize with one that's saying, man, I have the same struggles. Let's not reinvent the wheel every single time, but let's just move forward and let's see what we can do collaboratively. And I think and as we know, a k-means cluster is a k-means cluster, right? It doesn't matter what the data source is. It's pretty much, it's a hammer, right? You just use it the same way. And so if there's ways where we can do that, I think that'll truly help leverage AI in marketing and in other organizations as well. And along those lines, then how do we define, how do you define success? Or what would be a good KPI for leveraging AI in marketing?
I could take that. So there are tons of platforms making the claims about doing nothing to your digital marketing initiatives. Now, the true way in which every marketer would test out a platform which claims to be an AI is one, definitely see if the impact after integration, is it helping you make your decisions faster, or is it helping you make them smarter? So is it about the speed that it is bringing about? It could be both, but like rule-based systems which are not there generally help you with executional speed, which makes things go faster, but they not necessarily learn from the historicals. And that's where a basic difference between a rule-based versus an AI system would come. The second part is directly measuring the business impact, like integration of AI systems either on like retention or acquisition or in CS automation intelligence. What is a pre-imposed? It can be a pre-imposed, or if there is a control exposed type of mechanism or an A/B test mechanism where you could test out the AI platform against some of the internal systems or the other tools that you're using with an AI system, probably as a free test. That would be one good way in which you could define what is a success, how do we measure it in the end, and like do it in a hold out environment where all of it is a fair A/B test when you test out these platforms. Second is about the team building. So generally a company is spending, let's say, $1 million a month. As a scale to $30-40 million in terms of spends, we generally have to hire people, like more paid media managers, more analysts, more and more social managers. Like, is an AI system solving for that? Like, with the same team, can you still scale up your medium? So is that making your team efficient? Is that helping your team kind of focus on the larger framework of strategy and letting the AI do the execution task? Third part of it, we have seen this when there is Black Friday and when there is Amazon running a huge brand campaign, all the CPMs get affected. And we see a huge spike in our cost of acquisition, which is depending on the industry. If your competitor is running a huge brand campaign, your CPMs get affected, you see fluctuations in CPAs, or when you scale up, scale down by a huge amount in your digital campaigns, again, that is something which affects your entire stability of the CPAs or ROAS which you're optimizing for. Again, an AI system there would help mitigate all of that and like look at an AI platform not just from immediate cost reduction, that's definitely part of it, but more towards like, is it optimizing my team? Is it letting my team do more of what they like and kind of automating the rest of the part? Is it letting me kind of pass through all the fluctuations, seasonality that generally happens when you run these marketing campaigns? And the last part of it, we all know how difficult it is to hire paid media managers when they leave. And large companies like even the startups keep switching agencies every 6 months, 1 year. And that's again a start from ground zero when such things happen. So what an AI system would do in that scenario is create an IP. So a system that would understand your brand with more and more data being ingested, either acquisition or retention, so that when a new team member joins or when a new agency gets onboarded, it's not a cold start. We have some kind of baseline from which we can start. The brand does not get impacted due to any of these external changes which are not within the control. So that's how I would see measuring success is not just about seeing for immediate cost reduction. There are other parameters which a marketer should definitely consider when measuring for true success after integrating an AI system.
For us, there's business KPIs and technical KPIs. From a business KPI, this is what the management or the leadership is looking for to see is that my investment into marketing, is this returning the returns that we are looking for, right? So like I said before, ROAS and pathways are things that we're looking at, and also customer acquisition numbers. So obviously KPIs, they're prioritized, and they have things associated with project initiatives, that we are constantly, measuring that to see how we're doing. Right? So every sprint, release streams, quarterly, whatever time frame, we're constantly looking at it, right? So what was, how much did we invest, how much did we get? So from a business perspective, that's what we're trying to do. But on the technical side, right? So efficiency wise, how we used to do it, when we started this, when we did this whole Kraft application, and to get that data clean and put all of this together, one brand would take us 8 weeks of work, and I would be looking at the engineers like, what the heck are you doing about this? What are you doing that we wrote? I said, no automation. It's data, labeling, all that issue. Oh my God, I didn't even think. So to now, that if you want to onboard somebody to provide that insight on a brand, we can do multiple brands within a week, right? So now we look at from there, efficiencies in integration in data, and then the quality of the data. So the other thing is looking at the quality of the data. Data science model, garbage out. So those are things that we're measuring from both. And then to us, as an engineer, I'm looking at a lot of the tech aspects of it to make sure we're successful and we're providing the value. But at the same time, we're keeping an eye on the business KPIs as well.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of what Harvey said, I think the KPI for the A/B testing, right? Whether you're measuring anything like mentality, and I know this is probably preaching to the choir here, but just make sure you set up your test very accurately, right? And make sure you have it's truly random, right? And we know we can bias it, and there's some bias sometimes built in. But try your absolute best to truly make it as objective as possible, because that's going to make your future campaigns that much more effective, and you will earn the trust of your business counterparts, right? And so yeah, just take that extra effort, do that A/B test, measure that trait mentality, measure the ROI. And if the numbers aren't looking good, just be upfront and learn from it, and let's move on, right? Don't try to hide it. On a caveat, with vendors, I've had some experience in the past where vendors were a little bit fuzzy with their results because they weren't as good as they should be. And I just said, hey, just tell me what it is, right? And so those of you who work with vendors, partner with them, they're such valuable partners, but just make sure you don't completely rely on them, because I think you need to make sure you have ownership of all the results and even the process. So moving on to our next topic of collaboration. I think culture, literacy, collaboration all kind of go hand in hand. And Amir, some examples of what's worked for you, what hasn't worked maybe.
Yeah, so probably investigate what is working now. I talked about culture, talked about collaboration. So as we were getting into this digital marketing journey, right? So one of the things was that we wanted to make sure your alignment is from leadership, right? They're supportive of it. You have to have, for any digital initiative to be successful, full leadership support, funding available, obviously patience to put it there, and then organization structure to support that. So once you have those things settled, then what we did is we created, based on those understanding, we created agile pods, right? right? So team structure. So we have what we call a fusion team, right? So our team is just not a bunch of engineers sitting together and trying to figure marketing out, but we actually have marketers part of our pod, right? So somebody who's responsible for activation is also part of the pod, and somebody who's responsible for branding is also part of the pod. So this way, the understanding of my engineers, I can tell you today, they understand every darn marketing word that's out there. They understand what the impact is. I mean, I can tell you 2 years back, they were like, I have no idea. All I know is like that column together does something which is important to them. That's it. And it's like, you tell me the rules. Now they're like, they've got the judgment now to say it's like, that value is not right. That process doesn't. They are very comfortable challenging, right? So, in a sense of like, are we sure? Right? Those kind of questions. So we put together a fusion team, and they are very well aligned from a business perspective, right? So now we have business and tech. So we have a business partner and a tech partner together, right? I represent the tech partner, and we have a business partner, and together we are working, right? So now we're bringing partners. We use other martech platform, GCP and others. We bring them in as needed, right? So it's a full-on collaboration, quarterly sort of sync ups, to make sure we're heading down the right direction in terms of roadmap, right? And making sure it's like we are visualizing our success through numbers. We are sharing, our future state, so it's this whole concept of architecture. So that's my responsibility as a team. As we build, are we able to scale or not? That's the biggest thing. It's like, sometimes you can build a lot of good things. Next time we try to scale, it's like, can't happen. It's like, I can't just deploy to every brand. I can't just put it out to this one. This can't integrate because I did this. So that's a job from an engineer. So we're working very closely with the marketing team, working very closely with our business to make sure as a team, we're heading down the right direction. And we have evaluation criteria, some KPIs. But on the same token, we have shutdown clauses also. I was like, this is not making sense. Alignment is off, structure is off, or you don't have proper KPIs, you're not adding value. So it's all about value driven, right? So to go back, organization alignment, and organization structure, and the team, structure, and then once you get into the team, we're on the same cadence and how we do it. So far, knock on the wood, has been good. And then the teams are enjoying because they understand the business. It's just kind of right. And to be honest, I represent that. I go speak in marketing that language. To me, it's pretty cool. It's like they like me to sit in marketing, which I come from an engineering background. So, and I'm here. It's a result of collaboration.
Just to what Veer said, we have seen these teams coming up across all the brands. So it is not just the growth marketing team which runs these digital campaigns on the front of it, maybe yes. But what we have seen some of the advanced clients, it is the data science and the engineering team at the back end working very closely with the marketing team to kind of have these initiatives up and running. And this was exactly one of the main reasons why which led to our feature launch which we recently did. So when data science, that's the future where data science and digital marketing will be converging, and both the teams will work together. This is what we are seeing in almost all the advanced clients. With all these kind of transparency issues on these networks, it has to be through data science we solve these problem statements of how do we identify an audience which cannot be targeted. So and that can only be solved through data science. And that's one feature which we built recently where how do we build a workbench or workspace where data science teams and digital marketing teams can collaborate on one single platform. Like having that transparency into the AI systems that we have built, where we give the data science teams full freedom to change even the Pixis backend to the code-based level. So if you want to change how our listing models function, how our package systems function, all of that can be done at the backend through a workspace. That's where I say that's where the future is ahead. To successfully scale any digital marketing campaign, it cannot be purely done through a way where the data science and engineering teams will be involved to deploy those strategies on these networks.
Yeah, one thing as Mir mentioned, the collaboration piece. Whenever I work with data scientists, I continue to harp them to say, learn more about the business, right? Ask about the so what question. I put a dollar sign with the S there, right? if your model doesn't help the business, the bottom line, right? Then your model is just then our team is just going to become a nice R&D group, and when layoffs come around, it's like, oh, there you go, right? But if we can truly tie our models and understand what business problems that we're trying to solve, then I think that is what the true collaboration happens. We mentioned, some of the marketers or other teams where they didn't even know what these numbers meant. That's where the give and take happens, right? That's where the learning happens, and I think that's where the true collaboration occurs. And I think it's constantly having that growth mindset of challenging yourself and not being comfortable with where you're at and continuing to learn. And we know that there's plenty of opportunities, right, with AI in marketing. And Ari and Mary, if you have some examples on kind of where do you think we're headed, right? What are some opportunities? What are some things that you have learned?
I can tell you a great story which we had recently. It's one of the clients called Kraft. It's a fintech in Mexico which lets you manage your kind of finances through a great app. Again, just raised 100 million from general banking. When we take the pitch to them, the answer we got back from the CMO is that we have a fairly advanced digital marketing team and we have reached saturations in terms of what could be optimized. And if you still feel that you guys can take it beyond this, that's something which would be interesting. And the problem statement for them was not optimizing Facebook or Google or like these channels individually. It was more about how do I optimize the overall business goal. So how do I create a system that can shift budgets from Facebook to Google, to LinkedIn, to Twitter in real time based on performance. Because right now, this happens to 4 individual channel managers who look at these channels individually. And they are using fairly advanced systems even for managing that role-based systems. And like my answer to role-based systems, like they definitely help you make your decisions faster, but they're not necessarily the smarter ones because they do not understand your brand or historicals. So that's when we kind of launched the Pixis engine, where we took over the entire marketing funnel, where on a business level, the CAC targets or CPA targets or ROAS targets were set. And we were able to shift budgets, like in times when Google was not performing, in times of week when Facebook was not performing, we gave each platform a fair amount of kind of share of budget, depending on performance, because in the end, the business should be profitable. So whichever channel is driving that, we will kind of give weightage to those channels. And a system that could shift bids and budgets across channels was deployed within almost, it took us some amount of time, it took us almost 8 weeks of kind of ramp up period and kind of showing results that it is working. But in the end, it was a straight 25% improvement in a fairly well kind of set systems, a saturated system where they said that it cannot be optimized to the point. And being that the install campaign was a bit more challenging and difficult for optimizing for transactions. That would be one case study, which was like the business challenge to us, which was how do we look at digital marketing on overall level and create a system that can shift budgets to the channel which kind of gives the fair result to a business. The second example is with an activewear brand called Viori. You might be knowing it's a recent upcoming one, a Southern California-based brand. For them as well, they were using rule-based systems, like again, which are fairly well-oiled and have been running the organizations for like the past 2.5 years since they have been using it. For them also, like I said, it's for marketing, it's always the best approach to do an A/B test. If someone is coming to you with a claim that we can optimize your CAC or we can improve your retention rates, just do a fair A/B test in a controlled exposed environment or a controlled environment where you get to measure true incrementality and set out clear KPIs that how do we measure it, what platform. If you're using any attribution platform like Google Analytics, Adobe Analytics, or Looker for measuring the business impact, define that as a vendor. That we won't be looking at the interface numbers. We have our own internal CRM or our own internal attribution methodologies through which we measure the success and kind of repeat it against those systems. So we did a similar rule-based system against Pixis. 4 weeks of deployment, a 30% lift in ROAS was observed. So these are 2 examples. One which was against a very advanced marketing team, like I would say one of the smartest marketing teams that I have worked with, and the second was against a rule-based system with which Pixis was implemented.
So, we'll kind of repeat, the story that I mentioned about, our application Kraft that we built, right? So our challenge was not knowing who to target, and when we started that, it's like, how do we actually get to that part, right? Data that needs to be applied from multiple places, 1P, 3P, all of that data. How do we pull all of this together to actually provide a good list of 1P customers to our brands and that here's what you do, and be able to do that, right? So the work that went behind the data science work, in terms of modeling and in terms of sort of getting all of that data rounded up to be in one place and sort of a clearinghouse kind of concept, I'm sure we're familiar, is to really understand it and then using this Kraft and Valiyath sort of insights to help drive this. So this is where we kind of felt that the team that worked across like so many data sets and so many different models, so actually just to come and say, here's 10,000 people in this area with this demographics are good to actually, so you can present this campaign. So especially going back to school campaigns, a lot of it, it's a time when parents, they're out, looking for things, and we created campaigns and we provided them some good data. So hopefully in coming weeks we'll find out what was that return on it, right? So there's a lot of work that goes hand in hand to actually get to the point like
I think we have a few minutes left. Let's open it up for questions, and I think Kalema will pass the mic around. So if you have any questions, raise your hand.
Sure, Web, who's first?
I'm just wondering how you guys handle the conversation when you have maybe a big win and you're going back to finance, and finance is like, well, I don't see the billions of dollars that you made here. How do you actually convince finance some of the win actually flowed?
Great question. You want to tackle that?
You start with the money in the bank. So, this is, a challenging piece of it, right? So in terms of getting further investment. So however, what we have done is from, like I said, that commitment that we have from the beginning, saying that, look, this is not a magic wand. It's like you put in thing and then you swing this around. It's like magic. So it's going to take time. There's some understanding built in terms of what is this commitment going to be over a period of time, and having that understanding. So far we're sort of riding with some luck here. So we have sort of the budget supporting our initiatives, supporting our platform, and things that we need to go through that motion. However, we're keeping our CFOs and others in check and showing those values and numbers, right? So it's not that they're surprised or they're going to be surprised. It's like, oh, we ran out of money, no, we need more. But they're being kept updated very regularly. So our quarterly sync-ups are like super important where the top leadership, and the best part is our CMO, it tends to spread people. No joke. I mean, it is amazing to see that interaction. So I would say every spring review, regularly, so we're always on our spring reviews with a game. I was like, you just never know, he would, show up and ask questions. So that's actually, so right then and there, so the person is actually seeing deep down what's happening in the team and not being briefed by one slide. They know actual work. So that is actually sort of the unique thing. And then, we see this commitment in for areas, just not marketing, supply chain, manufacturing, others also. But to your point, if you have the CMO aligned and seeing the progress and can vouch for it, it goes a long way. So I don't know if I answered the question, but it just steps we're taking to hopefully not get to the point. But I might have an example of.
Just to add to what just Reed said, asking to build more like cost benefit analysis or a savings calculator or so. That's something which we have built where probably 3 weeks into deployment, we kind of send out an email, we figure out financing, we send out an email to build a CFO dashboard that what is the dollar value that you are saving with an AI platform deployed. And we have a very detailed calculator where it calculates the impact on 1 year CAC or your ROAS that with the deployment of AI, including the fees of a platform like that included, what is the next savings that you have at the end of the day. And that we will present to a financing with numbers, so the conversations are generally because they are some numbers. So if there is a dollar value associated with at the end of any pilot that you do with any platform that you are on board, you can have a savings calculator or a cost benefit analysis being built out in the end and being presented. That would just make the conversations a bit more easier.
And for us at Chipotle, if we run a promotion, say burrito for Halloween, we can immediately see how many people sign up for our loyalty program to participate in that campaign. So in that sense, it's pretty easy for us to see that bump.